All right, everyone. I am super excited to introduce our guest speaker today, Paul Posoli. And we are going to hear from him today about his leadership style and also some suggestions for all of you. And I am super thrilled that he is here today joining us and giving you all some advice and some insight into his phenomenal career. So, with that being said, welcome. Um,
Thank you.
can you please introduce yourself to us and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Thanks for having me. It's great to speak with you all today. I'm Paul Posoli. I'm currently the founder of a nonprofit called Career Spring, and we may have time to talk more about that. But I started my career after college. I went to the University of Miami, and I started my career in accounting. I worked at Coopers and Lybrand, which is like the PwC. It was before it merged with Price Waterhouse. It was Coopers and Lybrand. And I did accounting for 3 years. And then I went back to graduate school to Northwestern and studied finance. And then I took a job with a company called Enron. And you all may at some point work on Enron case studies. There's a long story behind that, but Enron was one of the first energy trading companies. And I moved to Houston from Chicago to be an associate, getting started right after business school uh, in the energy trading world. And I ended up spending 20 years in that space, most recently as the head of global energy trading for JP Morgan, but I worked as president of Bear Stearns energy business. So I did that for 20 years. And then in 2014, I um, I had the opportunity to go and lead a high school. And it's called Cristo Rey Jesuit on the southeast side of town, pretty close to U of H. That came about because the founding president of the school, a young man, was diagnosed with stage 4 stomach cancer, and he was very sick. And he asked me if I would leave JP Morgan to come in and be interim president, and I decided to do that, and and I thought I was going to do it for 6 months. I ended up spending 5 years as the headmaster of the high school. I absolutely loved it, and then from there I decided that we needed to take the next step and founded a nonprofit to help those students find meaningful careers.
That's amazing. What an accomplishment. So, I read that you're supporting students specifically also that are first generation students or that are um, maybe struggling a little bit with their first steps into their career field. So, what would you then say is like really important for these students or for the students in the course to keep in mind whenever they want to venture out? Or would you, with your business, with the nonprofit, do you have opportunities for students that would like to learn more to get
Sure.
in touch with you and get connected?
Yes, you're correct that we focus on supporting students who are first generation, meaning their parents didn't get a college degree and or coming from a low income background. So Pell Grant recipients, that's our focus. But I think what we do, it's a good reminder for all students. There are really four things you need to find meaningful, high quality employment. Number one, you need information. Like there are so many different jobs you can have in business. Like start exploring, watch videos, learn from people. Two, you need skills. Like you better have a pretty good resume and you better be prepared for interviews. U of H has an amazing career services department that we're partnered with. So you're at the right school for that, but be working on that early. Three is professional networks. 80% of all jobs are filled by personal and professional connections. If you don't know people, it's really hard to get your resume to the top of the stack. And so I'd urge you to start building your network and your social capital. And then four, get internships. If it's, no matter what it is, get some internships in some areas that you're interested in. You do those four things, it's likely you're going to be able to find meaningful, high quality employment. If you wait till the end of the finish line, you haven't done any of that, it makes it harder.
Absolutely. What do you think, from your experience, people are looking for in terms of skill sets that employers are really after? I actually, at my previous institution, I did a study on the gap of what students bring to the table in terms of their skill set versus what employers are looking for. So I would be really interested in knowing your insight from your expertise.
It depends. I mean, I think it's probably easier to stay in the business world, but we support all professions, all industries. So every industry has its own way of approaching candidates. I think some things that are consistent are people that can communicate well, people that can articulate things, communicate, not necessarily sell, but communicate whatever it is they're trying to get across. Analytical skills, that could go, you got to be able to do Excel, that kind of thing. But you can take that step further into, can you do coding and those kinds of things. The challenge, I think, is that it's changing so rapidly that you just have to be a continuous learner. Like, what am I looking for when I worked at JP Morgan? Someone intellect is important. And yeah, you have to be able to do spreadsheets, but you can learn that. But are you a curious person? Are you someone that wants to continue to learn at all times? I think this generation, I was kind of lucky in that for 20 years I did something, I got better every day, got a little bit better, but it wasn't like the world was changing every 3 to 5 years. And that's the world that your students are going to be in. You're going to have to continuously learn every year, getting better. Things will change. If you're a coder right now, they may not even have coders in 5 years, right? Everything's going to change. So curious, hard worker. I mean, we'll talk about some of these other things, maybe if we talk about that top 10 list, um, analytical, willing to continue to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. This is exactly what we practice in my courses.
Great. I love it.
So, and I promise we did not have a
Yeah,
prior
students, we did not
discussion of
talk
what to
before
say.
this. That's good.
Um, so can you then tell us what kind of a leader you are and what you found to be important when we talk about leadership and being able to uplift your team and those types of kind of scenarios from being in the banking industry, but also now as a founder and really developing your business.
Sure. I think the people that worked with me would agree that I'm definitely an all-in kind of person. I mean, whatever I'm doing, I'm now at this nonprofit. I don't get paid, and I'm probably working. My wife thinks I'm working harder than I worked when I was at JP Morgan, right? So it's whatever I do, 100%. And I think employees like to see that, like um, work hard, expectation of working hard. If I was leaving every day at 3 and I'm like, hey, you all stay till 10 at night, that's not really going to send the right message to the team. Um, I always had an open door policy, maybe to a little bit almost like too far, but anyone could come in at any point and tell me anything. And so, there were times where I'm clearly like having conversations. I'm like, most leaders would not be having this conversation right now, but I really do care about people I work with, and I think that comes through the open door. It's hard to say I care about all the employees, but you can only meet with me once a year. So that's the approach I had. Um, and I think it's important that you actually know what you're doing. You have to be capable because you could be a really nice person and hardworking, but if you're not capable, the team will figure it out pretty quickly. So I think young people often want to be a leader. They're like impatient. I'm ready. I should be in charge. You're better off being patient with your development and making sure you're ready to step into that seat and not rush it. In fact, when I went to Enron, there was my first role, I was an associate, and I think I was one of the last people in my class of 100 students or associates to get promoted to manager, but I was the first to make director. Maybe I was first or second. And it was because I was like, I'm not in a rush here. I want to continue to learn, and the rest, like promotions and being in charge, that'll all come at the right time.
Hmm. So kind of have that reputation speak for yourself or the learning that you've accumulated over time speak for what kind of a leader you are.
I think that's true.
Okay. So let's then transition into your list of 10, I believe we call it 10 pieces of advice for having a successful career and life at the same time. So what are your thoughts? First of all, how did you come up with that guideline? That would be an interesting question. And then how does it relate to maybe also what you were doing with the students, how you're supporting them, if at all?
Sure. Yeah, this idea of a top 10, I actually wrote a book to my children. Each of them got a book when they turned 13. And it's a lot more than 10. I think it's like 18 chapters. When I went to the school, I taught a personal finance and leadership class. And in that class at the end, I would kind of give some tips. And so I've spent some time thinking about this. If I was 21 again, 20, what would I want to know from somebody that is old, that's seen a lot of stuff? And so that's how it kind of came about. And
Hmm.
um, and I have seen a lot of things. So I've had some great wins and some really tremendous failures. So these are the things that I think are most meaningful to live a fulfilling life. That doesn't mean like to get the most success. It doesn't mean to make the most money, but rather fulfilling.
Okay.
So I'll go through them. You ready?
Yes, we are
Okay.
excited and ready to
All right. I
go.
don't think any of these are going to be like something we're like, whoa, we never thought of that before. But here are my top 10. Number
Okay.
one, and I mentioned this about myself, be all in. There's a book called The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale. It's like 80-year-old book. This guy wrote this book. And one of the things he says in the book is throw your heart over the fence and your body will follow. Throw your heart over the fence and your body will follow. When I started Career Spring, it was literally a 2-page document. And people were like, I don't know, Paul. And I was like, I think it'll work. And now we have 350 partners and 25,000 students on the platform and in 9 cities. And I guess the point is, I just threw my heart over the fence and my body followed. I was all in. I came into my office here every morning at 6:30 and I worked till dinner and just did it until we are where we are. So anyway, that's, I think, really important. The only thing I'd say on that one is don't waste your gifts. Everybody's got different gifts, and there isn't a person my age that wouldn't love to be back at 21 again, right? And when you're my age, 55, one day, you would look back and be like, man, I would love to be 21 again. So don't waste any day by not being all in. It just doesn't make sense. Give it everything you got every day.
Hmm.
That's number one. The second one is work hard, which is kind of aligned with number one. But I love the Thomas Jefferson quote. He said, I'm a great believer in luck, and I find the harder I work, the more I have of it. I'm a great believer in luck, and I find the harder I work, the more I have of it. Kind of a sort of a joke, right? But put yourself in a position to get lucky. How do you get lucky in life? I think one way is to work hard.
Hmm.
And it's not don't have a work-life balance. What I would suggest is spend less time on TikTok and Instagram and social media. Now I lost the audience. They're all going to be mad at me. They're not going to want to talk to me anymore. Spend less time on that. And when you get to your job, you'll see this. There are people that mess around all day. They're ordering things, retail stuff, buying things on Amazon. Don't do any of that stuff. Like when you're in the office, go hard, work hard. And then when you're out, do things that are important. Spend time with your family, spend time with your friends, spend less time scrolling through TikTok. So that's number two.
Well, if I can like
Yeah,
interject
please. I'll
there.
stop.
So we did talk in the course about, ideally you want to find something that you were really passionate about and then follow that. Um, And so I think that makes all of the difference because those first two of your list would be easily checked off. If you like what you do, then you're all in, right? And you apply yourself 100%, even more so. And then it doesn't necessarily feel like work. Obviously, there's always for any career that you choose, some things that you really like and some things maybe that you don't like as much. But if you choose something that you're passionate about, then long hours or maybe some kind of obstacles in the way, you'll be able to shift around it and kind of follow your passion.
I think that's a great point. And I love that you said you not only you not will not always love what you're doing. That's important too, because what you don't want to have happen is you're waiting to find the perfect job, and so you're just bouncing around, and then you end up 15 years down the road, and you're like, I never found it, and then you're unhappy. Like I
Yeah.
didn't like doing accounting work. I had to audit one of my jobs was auditing the bonds at the Miami airport at like 11 at night. I'm in the airport during Christmas and everyone's happy and I'm going down to get some food and I'm like, what am I doing here? That wasn't fun, but I learned a lot. And so working hard, just think about it this way too. If you work, let's say twice as many hours, and I'm not suggesting to do that, but let's just do the math. If you work twice as many hours as the person next to you, you'll get twice as much knowledge, twice as much opportunity. So think about it that way too. It's investment in your life by
Mhm.
working hard.
I love that.
Thanks.
Great. What's number
Okay,
three?
number three. Number three is more of a self-reflection thing. It's find your true self. And another way to say it is like know what you stand for and then stand for it all the time is another one. I stole that from a book I read. That's not my quote. Know what you stand for and stand for it all the time. I think it's a great time in your life at age 20, 18 to 22 to actually spend a little bit of time thinking about who you are. What is your mission statement? What are you about? What are your values? What's important to you? Is money important? It's not that that's a bad thing. Like you could say, my objective in life is to be very wealthy. Well, then let's get that figured out now so you can put yourself on a track for that. Maybe it's I want to be a great friend. I want to be someone that is very honest. What happens in people's careers, and that's what happened at Enron, is I'm sure those people that made bad decisions and did some unethical things didn't start that way. But I don't think maybe they just didn't know what they stood for. They didn't know what their true self was. And then when they got tested, they were like, well, that's not so bad. I'll just do a little bit of that. And then before you know it, you're down this path where you don't even know who you are anymore. And you've done
Mhm.
a bunch of stuff that you can't believe that you don't even want to look in the mirror. So I guess I would
Yeah.
say now's a great time for your students to spend, even if it's a few hours, write it down, get a journal out. Like these are the things that are important to me. Family's important to me. I want to be a man that or a woman that helps other people. Okay, well then write that down. So when you're 30 and you haven't done anything for anybody else, you can go back and say, "Oh, I didn't follow that." I'd love to see how I was thinking at 21. I didn't do that until I was 40. I wish I had written down those things when I was 21. I'd love to see what that young man thought.
Yeah. It also relates to what you said earlier about leadership and how you are showing up for your employees, basically modeling this kind of behavior or based on the values that you have. This really relates to that for me because if you're finding out who you are, what your values are, you will have a much easier time also developing as a leader because ideally then that is in sync, right? But also from a standpoint, we've talked in class about, how do I even find my first opportunity after graduating? And what I would say if I put my HR hat on would be you want to do research and find out um, what the company stands for, what are their values, and they should be aligned with exactly what
Great
you're
point.
saying, what your values are.
That's those are two great points. Just fantastic points. Yeah, the
Awesome.
because the and you're going to get tested. You're going to get tested. And if you don't really understand who you are, there's a lot of phonies out there. And it's just like let's figure out who you are. So when somebody asks you to do something that's not consistent with your values, it's easy for you to say, that's not who I am. And as a
Mhm.
leader, um, they'll call you out if you're acting like somebody who you're not. Who are you as a leader? Everybody's a different kind of leader. Know who you are. Yeah, that's good stuff.
Awesome. Let's move
Next
on
one.
to the next one.
The next one is embrace your failures. Um, I truly believe that I am so much more grateful for my failures than my success. And I would say, like, if you saw my resume, if the students saw my resume, they'd be like, oh, it was a pretty good run. President of companies and they big businesses. My failures were so much more impressive, so much more impressive. I was involved in two bankruptcies. When I was 31 years old, the New York Times wrote an article, interviewed me and wrote an article about the public company that I was a leader of, one of the leaders of, and the stock was down 40% the next morning on Monday. So like 200 million people in the world read this article. New York Times is a very big paper. Very bad day for me. I had a trader lose a couple $100 million working for me. Point is, these are really bad things that at the time seemed catastrophic for my career. And now they're just stories that I can tell on this Zoom to a class of students. Nothing more. They really don't matter at all. Like what seems so important at the time. And actually, when I look back, now it's like, thank God that happened. Like, wow, like I got so much stronger. Like getting kicked in the face was really made me a much stronger leader. So when things would come up, it was like, that's not so bad. I've been through some way worse stuff. And so when tough things happen, we all have a tendency to create storms in our lives. That is what we do. I'd urge everyone to just realize that it's going to pass, other than health. Health is a real thing, but other than that, everything else passes and try to embrace it as something like, wow, okay, this I got knocked down. This is good for me, and long term, I'll be better for it. It's hard to do.
Wow. That really shows me what kind of a person you are, what kind of a leader you are. That sends a very strong message. And I agree with you. I mean, your failures or mistakes, they show a lot of who you are as a person and also how you can reframe it and put it into something positive. What have you learned from it? What are you going to do differently next time if you were involved with anything? Sometimes things happen outside of your area of influence, right? And but still how you deal with it shows a lot of who you are as a person. Very good.
All right, you ready for the
Awesome. I,
next
I
one?
love this list.
The next one is peaks and valleys. And this is an easy one. There's going to be times in your life, and I'm sure you all have seen it already, where you feel like you're on top of the world and everything's going perfectly. And there's going to be times where you feel like you're at the bottom valley and you'll never get out. And neither is true. You're not as good as you think you are when things are going well, and it's going to be okay. Again, other than obviously catastrophic health issues. But everything else is just peaks and valleys, and try not to get too caught up in either one. It really almost worse to get too caught up when things are going well, because a wise friend of mine used to say when I'd say our business is going great, he'd say, "Be careful when you cross the street," meaning you get hit by a bus. But what he literally meant was, it was figurative, but what he meant was, be careful, because when you start believing that you're great, you have a tendency to let your guard down, you make mistakes. So neither's true, peaks or valleys. Trust that when things are bad, it's going to get better. When things are really good, it's probably going to get a little worse. So let's just stay focused on what we're trying to get done.
Great.
Next one.
Yeah.
Next one is attitude of gratitude. Um, I read something somewhere that said if you write down three things that you're grateful for every day before you go to bed, that you will almost always be able to maintain a positive attitude. You train your brain. There was a Roman philosopher, Seneca, that said, "A man's as miserable as he thinks he is." A man's as miserable as he thinks he is. Now, I'm not talking about mental illness. I mean, I understand that there's things that are outside of people's control, but I'm talking about if you're not dealing with that, a lot of times people look at the negatives. It's a glass half empty, glass half full. But I'd argue now, based on the fact that I've been around a long time, that if you look at your day, even a bad day, and you identify the things that you're grateful for. Every day there are graces that you can identify if you take the time to really do it. Because how was your day? Horrible. Okay, but really spend some time thinking about the day. Who did you talk to in the morning? Did you have any conversations that were meaningful? Did you get the time with a friend? Did you talk to your mom? Did you talk to abuela? Whatever it is. Um, so focusing on those graces and attitude of gratitude is, I think, really important. There was a guy named Nick Vujicic who he's still alive. Nick Vujicic was born with no arms and no legs. We had him at Cristo Rey Jesuit. He's a global speaker. I think he's spoken to 3 billion people on the planet or something. He was born with no arms and legs. This guy is the most positive person. You'd think he'd be, woe is me, I don't have arms and legs. He was the most positive person I've ever met. Talk about just like having an attitude of gratitude. He was so grateful. He said, I'm so grateful that I was born this way because now I get to talk to all these people. It's like, wow, powerful. Anyway, that's that one.
Very powerful, yes.
Next one, or yeah,
Yes,
okay.
sure.
The next one's a simple one. Expect the unexpected. You're in a business class. And of course, I was in a trading world. Another way to say this is we live in a world of possibilities, not probabilities. For example, I bet most of your students would like to jump out of an airplane if they haven't already, with a parachute, of course. And what I typically tell, and I told my own kids this, they don't listen to me, but I told them this too. It's a bad bet because the best case scenario is you have 30 seconds of fun while you're falling and you get a view. The worst case is you pull the string and the parachute doesn't open. I use that as an example of expecting the unexpected. In business, these are the kinds of things you want to avoid risks, business deals, investments where your best case is okay, your worst case is they come and take your house. So that's probably that one would deserve an hour, but it's one of my top 10 because people make mistakes all the time. They take out loans and do personal guarantees and they do things that ultimately bring them down financially because they didn't think about the unexpected. Expect the unexpected. Things happen. There's another way to
That's
say
a
that, but I
good
won't say it
one.
in front of your class. But stuff happens.
Very good one. Yeah.
Stuff happens. The next one
Okay.
is the power of compound interest. And Albert Einstein said that the most powerful force in the universe is compound interest. And for the finance people, they already know what I'm talking about. But all this means for you is save your money early. Save early. It's going to take, you got to make tough choices. I love Starbucks. That's great. I know you do. It's $6 a cup. If you took, if you didn't have that Starbucks cup, when I was 21, if I took that $6 and invested in the stock market every day to today, I'd have $450,000. Would you rather have a house worth $450,000 or a cup of Starbucks? But Mr. Posoli, I love the caramel macchiato grande, blah, blah, blah. I know you do. We got to make tough choices. You have to save your money early. If you wait till you're 50 years old to start saving your money, it's too late. Put yourself in position to be financially stable by understanding the power of compound interest and how important it is you start early.
Yeah. That relates to what you said earlier. What is your vision? Where do you see yourself? To have that kind of overarching 10,000-foot level to see, if I'm going to invest, let's say, let's stick with your example, the $6 into the stock market, where is that going to get me over the long run? Is that going to get me where I want to go? And if not, then what's your alternative? What is your strategy? In terms of financial health, but also your personal career goals or really anything in life. You need to be able to have some time to reflect, and hopefully this interview is inspiring you to do that after the fact, because that will actually be one of the things that we talk about in class. So
Good. I love it.
awesome.
Okay,
Okay.
last two. The next one is there's a faith component to this, but I'm not going to talk about that today. The next one is focusing on things you can control. Human nature is to spend a lot of time focused on things that are outside of your control. In fact, I think most of my early career, it was not until I was about 35 that I realized that doesn't make a lot of sense. I was trying to control everything to get things the way I needed them to be. And the reality is 90% of things around me I couldn't control. What can I control? I can control my effort, back to being all in, being in my attitude, be a positive person, have an attitude of gratitude. These are things that you can control no matter what happens. Effort, attitude. That's where you want to focus your attention, not on other people, not what people think of you, not watching Instagram because they're having more fun than me. None of that matters. Like focus on your own life, know what you stand for it all the time, give best effort, have a good attitude, be somebody people want to work with, positive attitude kind of person. That's number nine.
Great.
The
And
last one,
now the last one. I'm
last,
so
I don't know if this
excited.
is the best one or not. I'm not sure. This could be the worst one, but this one's important. It's that time flies by. I'm sure your students, what year are the students?
They're mostly so I mean I have some freshmen, but mostly senior, junior,
Yeah,
so
so
undergraduates.
they're really getting this, and even the freshmen will understand this. But when I say like when you're a senior in high school, you're like, wait, what just you're at graduation? You're like, I just got here. And for college, even more so. And I wish I could say that life slows down, but the reality is our brains play a trick. Every year has 8,760 hours in it, but the brain, as you get older, because every year is a smaller percentage of your overall life, your brain, it feels like it's going much, much faster and it's going to fly by. And unfortunately, in my case, I spent so much time focused on my career that I also missed some important events. Even though I was there, like a child's baptism, I was not as present as I could have been. So looking back, I wish I was more present and understanding that time is like the greatest gift you're given in life because it's finite. Like by
Mhm.
definition, it will run out. No one knows how much you have, right? If I said your life is a barrel of marbles and every day you're going to take a marble out, I'd like to know how many I have left. I don't know. We all would like to know. But if I told you you only have seven marbles left, ooh, that's going to make every day, man, I'm going to enjoy tomorrow. Like tomorrow is going to be a great day because I only have seven. If you have more of that kind of mindset that time flies by, enjoy the ride. This is something you've heard. I know everyone's heard this before, but it's a good reminder. It's about the journey, not the destination. I think that was Emerson or one of those people. That that's really important.
Yeah.
Today was a really tough day, but wow, I learned some things. I'm growing from it. Today was an amazing day. I'm going to appreciate every moment with my friends, whatever it is.
Yeah. Awesome. And again, to me, that connects to what we've talked about before, in finding out what your passions are, what your values are, and then picking a career that's aligned with that and a company, if you were interested in working for a company that aligns with that as well, because how much time do we spend at work? A lot of time.
Yes.
So if you're looking at those marbles, you want to be able to say, I've done something that is meaningful for me, whether that is dedicating your career to helping others, like yourself, or doing something else that is really meaningful and inspires you and the people around you. I think that's really important and it can add so much positivity and gratitude in your life as well.
Yeah,
Awesome. I love
nicely
those
said that it
10.
all kind of comes together, doesn't it? It's all
Yes.
way. And by the way, I didn't have this all figured out when I was 20 years old. So it's easy now because I'm 55, but it's natural for a 20-year-old to not really have all this stuff figured out.
Well, that's why I think it is so phenomenal that you have joined us today and that you've talked about this. And I can see that your kids must be incredibly grateful for you sharing that with them. Maybe it's a different dynamic because you're their dad.
Right.
But,
They don't.
but
Well, the funny thing is the jumping out of there. My son called me one time and he said, "Hey, Dad, he's 24 now. He's like, I think I'm going to do jump out of a helicopter." And I said, "You're breaking two rules, Matt. You heard my whole life. You're going to have a parachute and a helicopter. I hate helicopters too because they don't glide very well." So it was funny. No, they don't listen to me, but I hope your students will listen more. And if any of the students are exploring careers and they happen to be first generation, and or if they're a Pell Grant recipient, uh, tell them to check out careerspring.org. Please check out careerspring.org. We'll post 500 internships this year on the platform, and we've got 1,500 professionals that are available to network with and build your social capital. So I hope you'll
So
use the
tell us a
platform.
little bit more on how that works. So
It's
they
really
go to the website
Yeah,
and
they
they
could
can
just go to the
just
website. I'm
Mhm.
interested and say that they would like to register, and then they'll get a link to register. I think there's actually there is a passcode for U of H, but I can't remember it right now. But they can go through the website and then they log in and literally there's like three primary sections. There's a video library where we have 550 videos of people talking about what they do every day. So if a student's trying to figure out, I want to do investments, or maybe I want to be in management, or maybe I want to be a banker, they can go watch videos of people talking about that. And then there's the advisor forum where we have the 1,500 professionals. They can start booking meetings. Um, we've had students do 50 meetings with professionals, and these are like could be a CEO of a company, or it could be somebody that's like 2 years out. In fact, there's a U of A. I had breakfast with one of your U of H graduates, a guy named Juan Juarez this morning. He's a great young man, and he's an advisor on the platform for people that may want to do banking or private equity. Now he's going to kill me because he's going to get a bunch of requests. Um, but that's that. And then the jobs board is out there too. And we have a team that if you apply for a job, we'll set up a screen with you and have a 20-minute consultation. So it's not like Indeed or LinkedIn where you never hear back. We're gonna be in touch with you.
And so how do the students qualify? Do they have to apply to meet the minimum standard?
We just trust them that if they are first gen, we ask the questions and we trust that somebody that's not isn't going to say they are.
Okay. Well, it's speaks to your business model. It's built on trust. I think we mentioned
Right.
that right at the beginning. So to me, this everything that we've talked about today is really like a circle. It all comes back together. It's a full circle to me. And it speaks to the legacy that you have built, that you are really promoting right now. And it's incredible to have you as a speaker for my students with all of the wisdom that you've shared with your ideas, but also the leadership that shines through just by everything that you've mentioned, and your 10 tips or the 10 pieces of advice, but also how you've built your nonprofit and how you are running it, as I can already imagine by some of the things that you shared. So it has been such an honor and such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
And I am most definitely certain that my students will reach out because they do have a lot of first generation college students. And I'm sure that they are highly appreciative of everything that you've shared, but also the resources that they have at their fingertips now.
Thank you.
So
I enjoyed our time together today. Thank you so much.
thank you so much.